Okay, hello. Welcome to the Adrenal Fatigue podcast. I am Casey Hawkinson, your host and co-founder of Unlimited Health and the supplement called Adrenal Relief. Here today with our main founder, Greg Davenport, and also we have a special guest
Woohoo!
also with us here. Yes, all around. We have someone also in the adrenal fatigue community. Her name is Sarah Nikolovska,
Woohoo.
and yeah, there she is. There's Sarah. And she's based in Los Angeles and does a lot of really interesting work. She runs a center called the Recentered movement. And she is formerly a personal trainer and worked in biomedical research and has a master's degree in neuro rehab. And herself, like Greg, also had an adrenal fatigue crash. And so that motivated her to start her business like Greg did with his and start her own blog and really create awareness for adrenal fatigue. So a lot of similarities with our
Yeah, I'm also a personal trainer. Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, I
Probably.
mean, it was all meant to happen. So I'm excited to get this conversation going between all of us. We've done a lot of work together on Instagram and really helping people as far as advice and counseling people as much as we can through that social media platform. And I think we've made a difference or two here and there. So Greg, let's just start it off for you. Can you walk us through again? We've covered this before, but I really want to drive this home. Can you walk us through your experience with adrenal fatigue when you really diagnosed yourself and the whole healing process and so forth?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've kind of rehashed it a little bit, and I'm really excited to hear Sarah talk about it. But for me, adrenal fatigue was horrible. It was scary. My doctor, who I do respect, told me nothing was wrong, which did nothing but stress me out further. As Casey already mentioned, I'm a personal trainer. I do a couple other things. I'm an entrepreneur, essentially. And when I got it, it was after my second son. I basically hadn't slept in 2 years. And one day I woke up and I literally just couldn't get out of bed. I felt myself getting more and more tired. And sleep was a huge issue for me. Falling asleep was hard. That was a stress. Staying asleep was even harder. And it took me the better part of a year to fully recover. And the worst part for me was I couldn't work for about three months.
Yeah.
It was just yeah. So yeah, I'm really curious to hear your side, Sarah.
No, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I'm not even sure when it really started. I remember back in my 20s when I had an episode of what we then called overtraining syndrome. It
Mm.
was you were doing too much and your sleep started to get a little screwy. You were having a hard time. I was having a hard time falling asleep. And I immediately went on melatonin and just dropped down a little bit in my the amount of activity, and it corrected itself.
Can I jump in real quick, Sarah? When
Yeah,
you say
sure.
when you say overtraining, you mean in a like a physical sense, like you're
Physical
pushing your
sense, yeah.
body too hard? Yeah. Okay.
I literally remember reading in my personal training, NASM textbook
Yep.
about this overtraining syndrome, and
The gold standard in personal training.
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I have.
So it was familiar to me, and of course back then, the whole adrenal fatigue didn't exist. No one had heard of it, but we were already familiar with some of the symptoms, and we knew what it was. We just hadn't named it or identified how devastating and how broad reaching it could get.
Hmm.
That was just stage one. That was all we knew. And when this happened to me, I was living in Venice, working in Beverly Hills. I was cycling back and forth to work, which is about 10 miles a day, 6 days a week. And I was already getting tired and having trouble sleeping, but I sort of passed it off to noisy neighbors and proximity. They only live it's 2 feet between houses in Venice. And
By the way, I know that very well.
it really
a lot
is.
of
The
A
struggle
lot
is
of
real.
people don't. I know a lot of people don't realize, but Greg lives in the Denver, Colorado area.
Hmm.
Being a partner, live in the Los Angeles area, and spent a good part of my 20s, early 30s in living in Venice.
Yes.
So I've certainly chalked up some exhaustion in my life to,
Yeah.
the neighbors were pretty loud last night.
Yeah, it was terrible. So that I think those were the beginning stages, but as I say, I just, you sort of push through it, and then unfortunately something sort of emotional happened. I came home one day and my dog I found my dog paralyzed,
Oh
and I
my gosh.
Mm.
unfortunately lost him. But
Ugh.
it was so, I mean, it really just pushed my body over the edge.
Yeah.
And
Just
after
the
that,
stress. Yeah. Just the
yeah,
stress.
I mean,
Yep.
just that emotional stress and that grief,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, everything spiraled out of control. I couldn't sleep. I put up sort of,
Was it immediate for you, like that night, or?
I mean, I don't know that it was immediate because I was already having trouble sleeping, but I
Right.
started putting on weight at like a ridiculous rate, and I was still cycling. So I
Right.
couldn't really understand why I was getting this weight gain, and I was just dragging my body around all the time. I just felt like I thought it was age, but it was painful to wake up in the morning. Like I just didn't have the strength to lift myself. I would cycle down the street and literally 5 minutes down the road, my thighs would be burning. Like
Oh, yeah.
I had
Yeah.
done 4,000, maximum weight squats, and I couldn't understand. I was like, physiologically, I just could not understand what was going on with my body. I had no sex drive whatsoever. I
Yep.
mean, and
Just
living in
dies.
Los Angeles, that is hilarious because half of the people are half naked all of the time. And you don't care. You're just like, put your shirt on. What's wrong with you? And like another thing, when I was really at my work.
Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things too, a lot of people that I think are new to adrenal fatigue or have
Mhm.
not are not familiar with it. They don't
Right.
understand what you just said about the just extreme, overwhelming exhaustion that I thought I
Yeah.
was dying. I thought I was dying.
I didn't either. I was like, okay, so this is what age feels like. My
Yeah.
parents were right. This sucks. This is
Yeah.
just horrible. I mean, I would go to walk the dog and I would walk 3 blocks and I would just want to lie down. I couldn't. It just,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
remind us what exact age were you at this time?
so this is now 6 years ago. So I was 37.
Wow,
Yeah. Okay.
prime of your life, and there's probably people out there, and I know there are that are just saying, it's aging process.
Yeah, no, I mean, and what eventually, so I started also having reactions to food that I have never had, where I would get muscle spasms and my back would just hurt and
Yep.
headaches
Yep.
and all of these other things. And
Do
I
you get
didn't know.
any? I didn't get muscle aches from food. I got a lot of IBS, like irritable bowel syndrome. Did you?
I was bloated,
Oh yeah. Oh
constipated.
yeah. Yep. Just brutal.
I never had the diarrhea.
Oh,
Um,
I had the joys of that.
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But I will
Enough
say
said. Enough
it
said.
got so bad at one point that I realized I stopped sweating. Like my body could no
Mm.
longer sweat. I could
Wow. Wow.
90 degrees wearing a sweatshirt and I was dry as a bone.
Wow.
And I
Greg,
thought
Greg,
No,
have
I
something,
you
didn't.
ever had
something is
anybody? Have you
really
ever?
wrong.
Wow, Greg, have you had anybody ever make comments about that? Like
No. That's the first I've heard of
I've
that.
never
Yeah,
heard that.
I was in full, I mean, beyond crash. I think it was at a point where it was just dangerous because, you start overheating, especially in Los Angeles, your body's not cooling itself, and you start running some serious risks at that point.
At that point, Sarah, were you? So I got scared. I mean, what would if you can remember? What was your mental state during that? And were you still going to
Desperate.
work and trying to operate? I mean, that's what really gets people is like you're
I
so
was
dead
working.
tired, you have to go to work. Yeah.
I had moved, so I moved closer to work, so I wouldn't have to do the biking anymore. I mean, I was still biking, but it was only like 4 miles,
Right.
and it was still suffering. But I became so desperate that I tried everything and anything, and
Yeah,
so
desperate's a good word. Yeah, I felt
it
desperate.
really, it really is because you
Yeah.
think I can't live the rest of my life like this. This is
Yes.
just
Yeah.
I mean, this can't be life. It can't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've still got a good, I think, 40 years left. So
Yeah.
please let's find something else. Something has to change, even just a little bit. Sleep. Just give me sleep, because as the pattern would be, I would be exhausted. My eyes would be closing. I would lie down and they would fly open.
Yeah. It's the worst.
It was almost as soon as you laid down, you got energized.
Yes. Yep.
And
Yep.
it was just like, and then you couldn't sleep. And then if
And
I
you're
did,
so tired. You're just like, why? It's such a stress.
and it would be 10 minutes and you'd snap awake.
Yeah.
3 a.m. was the magic number.
That's
Every
funny.
single
Yep.
night, I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I would not be able to get to sleep again after. And that was really what was killing me, because the brain fog, I couldn't concentrate.
Oh yeah.
My memory was terrible.
Yeah. Shot.
I mean, all of those things that go along with sleep deprivation.
Yeah. Yep. My number was 3:34 on the dot every time. Wide awake, like I wanted to like get in a fight or something.
Yeah,
Just
go run.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Just incredible. Yeah.
And did you ever, in terms of the food reactions, because I remember I used to get like heart palpitations after eating certain foods. Like I would feel like I just had 4 cappuccinos.
No, I didn't get that, but
Okay.
I did get the bloating. I had I remember it specifically because it's probably the most pain I've ever felt from food.
Mm,
And it was one of my first signals. Looking back on it, I actually went and ate at Chipotle, and
mm,
I've had that a million times, and
wow.
I ate that, and I thought I was like something was gonna, a little alien or something was gonna bust out of my stomach. I just incredible bloating. It
Oh,
knocked me to the ground almost. I was like, you know what I mean, in the
wow.
fetal position.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
sorry.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Yep.
let me jump in for a second. So, you're essentially you're describing adrenal fatigue stage 4.
8.
Is that
Yeah.
well? Yeah,
I
4
mean,
squared or
officially,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Greg, well documented on our side. Greg got to stage 3.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That not sweating thing is crazy.
Yeah, and we
No, it
talked
was,
about that a lot.
that was
What,
scary.
so when was the exact moment that you understood exactly what you had?
Well, it's interesting because I went through the entire process myself. I did not go to a doctor.
Hmm.
And what happened was I had a client who was further along, if you will, or preceded me in this. And she was coming in and she was explaining her symptoms. And she said to me one day when I described my own, she said, it sounds like what I have. And she had just been diagnosed with SIBO,
Hmm.
small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And she had been going to all of these doctors and they'd said, you have a thyroid issue, you're hypothyroid, you're going to need this, you're going to need that, you're going to need that. And I sort of started pulling information from her and doing some searches on the internet. And I came across a number of different sort of approaches to food allergies. I thought, okay, first, maybe it's food allergy based. So I went through this elimination diet. And then I really stumbled across these pages dedicated to adrenal fatigue. And I looked at all of the symptoms and I just went through a checklist and it was like, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
yes, damn, yes. Okay. And from there, sort of proceeded to follow certain guidelines or recommendations and learned basically to just listen to my body.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
some of the recommendations I reacted badly to, others I reacted very well to. And I sort of decided, okay, everything that's going on, the first thing, the thing I have to prioritize is my sleep. I have to find a way of sleeping.
Sarah, I would love to hear what just for people listening, do you
Yeah.
have like a tip or anything that did help you fall asleep? Because so many people dealing with it just can't sleep. I mean,
Yeah, I found initially, and I'm not recommending this to anybody. Keep this in mind. For me, it is, or it was at the time, a combination of Benadryl,
okay.
melatonin, and 2 Advil, because the
Okay.
Advil helped with my inflammation and the pain. Because when I would lie down for some reason, my body would just start. I would feel the achiness and the discomfort.
Wow.
And that really, I swore to myself I would do whatever it took, even though, no doctor in the world is going to tell you to take that combination.
Sure.
So as I say, I am not recommending it. I will not say that. I will say it worked for me.
Right.
But yeah.
No, that's cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can keep going if you want. I'm
Yeah,
just,
no.
yeah.
So
I'm always so fascinated because so many people share the same story
yeah,
about without help, and like how'd you get over it?
yeah, no, and at that time, unfortunately, like all of the CBD products that are available today, particularly in California,
Hmm.
were not openly available. I mean, you would, if you wanted marijuana, you would, you'd really have to just kind of buy it under the table.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you
so
do you take it today, if you don't mind me asking?
I
Or
actually, I don't. It's
no?
interesting
Okay.
because I just am not knowledgeable enough about it. I have friends who absolutely 100% swear by CBD.
Hmm.
I will say that I have a client right now, a very good friend of mine, who was in a severe car accident and had a spinal cord injury. And I have been using CBD as part of his rehab program. And it's quite funny because every time I sort of do like the tissue work, the body work with him, like an hour later, I want to take a nap. And I'm like, God, the work with him is so exhausting. And I realize, no, I've just absorbed massive amounts of CBD through my hands. So I can
Oh
attest,
wow.
I can attest to the fact that it does work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not at a
Yeah.
time of day where it's really convenient for me to take a nap.
Yeah.
I get just not to break this up, but I get a little bit concerned, and maybe I just need to know more about it. But I see a lot of people out there pumping CBD oil as literally the cure all for just
Yeah,
about anything going on. And what Greg and I, and including yourself, what we promote is, rest, nutrition, hydration, proper
absolutely.
supplementation. And I get a little bit concerned when I see CBD as, just kind of this massive cure-all.
I tend to agree with you because I really think for anyone, whatever it is that you're taking, and this is one of my sort of um, one of the things that makes me very uncomfortable with the way modern medicine approaches these things, which is to treat your, underactive thyroid. You become dependent on these things
Yeah.
instead of trying to reestablish the balance in your own body, which
Yes.
for me, that is the ultimate goal. It's not treating the symptoms, but rather finding out a way for your body to reestablish its own equilibrium so that then you don't need to take anything in the long term.
You talk about the Recentered movement.
Ab-
There's a lot. When we met, and just to give a little bit of context, we met each other. Really, it was over kind of this Thanksgiving Day break. We started messaging back and forth, myself, Greg, and you on
right.
Instagram. We kind of fell into each other on that platform, and then you and I had the pleasure of having coffee shortly thereafter, and just there's just all these commonalities and shared values that we
Yeah.
have and your organization has. I think it's really interesting. You got a lot of different layers to your organization. Can you shed some light on that and talk about
Absolutely.
how you founded it
Hmm.
and what you do on a
And
day-to-day basis?
before you start, Sarah, if anyone goes to the recenteredmovement.com, their website's I think it's fantastic. So, but
Thank you so
go ahead. Yeah.
much. Having built it myself, like sitting in my living room, that means a huge amount to me. So thank
But
you.
you have some skills.
Well, I thank you very, very much. No, it was important to me because, one of the things that I realized as I came through this process, and it was a very long process for me. My recovery took probably, I would say, 3 years for me to get to a point where I could work out again, like
Wow.
actually work out, lift
Oh,
weights.
and I mean, and
That's the
any personal trainers listening, like they were probably the only few people that really understand what you just said. That
Yeah.
is, I have empathy for you not being able to work out for 3 years.
It was
That's crazy.
horrible because
Oh,
I
oh,
would I would take a yoga class, or
oh,
I'm a Pilates instructor, personal trainer. I
yeah,
do specialize in physical rehab, but I'd do 20 minutes and I would feel so energized and I wouldn't come down from it. I would be sore. People talk about delayed onset muscle soreness.
sure.
It would start the same day and it would last for 5.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I couldn't, my body just couldn't repair tissues because I just
Wow.
wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't producing growth hormone.
Yeah,
And
sure,
so,
yeah.
but
That
when
is
I
just a
realized,
massive difference between
yeah,
healing from a stage 1, 2, or 3. It just further
yeah, oh, it's,
explains, how different and how even more severe
mm-hmm.
stage 4 is, and how it's so separate from really the first 3 stages. And not to say those first 3 stages aren't painful and you go
No,
through
I
all
mean,
these
I was in the
tribulations.
first 3. They're terrible. I mean, just as you're
Yeah,
describing it,
yeah,
I
but like,
feel like I went through nothing.
Yeah,
yeah, it just shows you how different it
3
is.
years, yeah.
That
yeah,
gap
no, it
between
was
stage 3 and
long.
stage
It was
4.
long. And it, and the things that I realized going through it that I had to change radically were my nutrition. And
Yep.
I didn't eat badly before, but I developed all of these food sensitivities as a result. And I had to eliminate things from my diet and learn to navigate around it, but still enjoy food because I love eating. I love
Yeah.
food.
Do
And
you,
that's
do
what
you still
fueled
do you
me.
still have the sensitivities to
Yes, yes, I do.
yeah, almost kind of, yeah, okay.
And
Crazy.
I mean, when I say sensitivities, I'll break out in a rash. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
headache on one level, but it's also if I really push it, yeah, it's not like I just can't have it. And the thing I learned was it's not worth having it because you feel so
Right.
rotten afterwards, and you know where that road leads. It's not a
Yeah.
good place. So, but it was also really learning to listen to my body and learning to check in with it and pay attention to what it was saying and not just, oh yeah, well, I had a headache after that. It's okay. Because as I say, I know the opposite road to health, the one that leads to a very unhealthy place. And I thought, this is, there is something about this. And I really want to try and connect with health practitioners across Los Angeles and build a website where people can provide information to people, to others, people who might be suffering from this, or just anyone really looking to optimize their health and not go down that road. And it involves every level of your life, your personal relationships. It involves
Yeah.
your living situation, the products that you use, because many of those, which I didn't realize at the time, I mean, I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention. They contain hormone disruptors. They contain chemicals that we absorb through the skin. Cosmetics are really not that healthy for women.
Right.
And now the market for men is increasing. And so you become more subjected to these chemicals. I don't want to necessarily say toxins because they're not all toxic, but they definitely have an effect on the body and on hormones in particular. And the food that you eat, your nutrition, the things that will create more inflammation in the body will make it even harder for you to recover and will slow that
Yes.
recovery process down.
Yep.
Herbal medicine, from what are the adaptogens, what are certain herbs that you can use to speed the recovery, to support your body, your thyroid, your adrenals, and other systems in your body, brain function, etc. And so I really started to get interested in this. And I was talking to a friend of mine and he said, you need a blog. And I thought, oh, don't be silly. That's what other people do, kind of thing. And one day I just sat down and thought, why not? This is something that the more people I talk to, the more people I find are interested in it. And I work out of Beverly Hills, and I have clients who come in from Pasadena, who come in from Malibu, and they all ask me, do you know somebody in my area? And my answer was always, really, I don't, but I thought I really should. I don't understand why can't we have someplace, something, a place where people who take sort of this holistic vision or approach to working with people, with other, individuals into account, and, just have this place where people can share information, they can share clients, we
Yeah.
can refer to each other, because I don't do everything. I'm not a nutritionist. I know what worked for me. I'm not a naturopath, but I know people who are, and they're really good at what they do. And I would really like for you to talk to that person, because that person can help you navigate this path.
Yeah, if I can compliment you, I would like to say I think what you're doing is incredibly noble. You and I have so much overlap too. Just even talking about how I talk to clients about this all the time, how nobody listens to their bodily signals anymore, and just everything that you're doing is so sorely needed, and I think it's amazing.
And I feel that, I mean, I feel the same way about you guys. I mean, I was so happy when you reached out to me because I thought, oh my God, this is great. This is exactly why I started this, because,
Yeah.
you know, I personally now have sort of incorporated some new techniques into my practice, which are involved in sort of recovery from emotional trauma and anxiety issues. And, you know, so now I can actually integrate sort of not just mindfulness, but techniques that help people heal in a way that before they couldn't. So, you
Right.
know, I can take a very activated body and bring it down into a level where now there's sort of more energy for the body to focus on physical healing. And it has, for me personally, it changed the way my body was able to address the sort of the energy, how to say it, the requirements, the energy requirements. Because after, you know, after my dog died, I think my body was just still in such a state of this hyper alert, and I didn't want to deal with the sadness, that any other stress that I added to my body, physical or otherwise, was just more than it could take. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people they just don't think of the different layers of stress. Physical stress is not different in terms of physiology than emotional stress is.
Right. Right.
And so when you say, well, I exercise so I don't feel stressed. Well, if you go in stressed, your body, you can very easily sort of push over past that threshold of benefit and take it onto a level where it is back to that overtraining syndrome. You know, it says, but I feel so much better. Well, your body has released a bunch of hormones, but physiologically, you know, it's still taking it to a level that isn't necessarily beneficial. So understanding that and sort of how to measure that and work within that, say, it's not that you can't work out, but you have to bring that intensity down in certain days until your body is fully ready to do that and make that useful for it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So anyone that's like they think they might be dealing with adrenal fatigue or other types of stresses, I mean, they can come to you and you can essentially help them work through that stuff, correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And
Yep.
I, you know, even if, and it's unfortunate because I've had a couple of clients that I've sort of, I won't say had to turn away, because I don't turn people away, but I've said to them, exercise isn't what you need right now.
Yeah. And they don't want to hear it, so they go away. I totally
Well,
understand.
they actually, they have listened to me, because what I've said is
Oh, good. Well, good.
what you need to do first, you need to go, you know, to this nutritionist or this naturopath. I'd like for you to have a cortisol test. And
Yeah.
they've come back and they said, oh my God, the woman said, they don't know how I get out of bed in the morning because I have no cortisol. Like, my levels are so
So
low,
low.
you
Yeah.
know, that they don't understand how I'm functioning, which explains what I observe in their workouts. Because these are people who were sent to me because, you know, other colleagues of mine were like, I don't think they're working out hard enough. They're not losing weight. Their body was going in the opposite direction. They say, always put on weight when I work out. And that is a huge red flag to any trainer out there. If you have a client who is putting on weight, and it's not that they're eating more after, they're not snacking after their session, it's not like that. There are certain things that you want to sort of become attuned to, and then say to yourself, even though it means you might not be earning money on this one, you know, for the person's health, which is what we are all most interested in, just go have your cortisol double checked. Just double check your thyroid. I just want to make sure before we start, you know, I really start in hammering hard on the, you know, high intensity interval training or whatever it may be.
Right. Right.
Because you could be leading them down a path that is very detrimental to their health.
Well, and it's just running through my brain. We are going to have probably more podcasts together. There's
Okay.
so much more for us to cover and talk about. I think we're kind of nearing the end of this particular episode, but looking forward to continuing on forward together, and continuing to educate and create awareness about adrenal fatigue. That is just the number one most important thing. So I'm going to wrap this up, and then Sarah, we'll look forward to having you on in future podcasts, and
I
look
would love it.
forward to
Yeah.
further
That's all.
collaboration. And so one thing that we'll do here is, before I get into kind of the whole closeout, could you tell all the listeners out there, Sarah,
Mhm.
your website address
Yeah,
and Instagram handle or any other platform that you might be on?
absolutely. It's the website is www.therecenteredmovement.com. Uh,
Okay.
and the Instagram account is pretty much the same, the Recentered Movement.
Okay.
There are also a couple of sort of associated Instagram accounts that you can access through there. They're just tagged on some of the things, but yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. I'll wrap us up. So to that part, I'll mention our ways that you can connect with us online. So our website is called www.unlimited-health.com. So that's www.unlimited-health.com. We are on Facebook at Adrenal Relief. So that's at Adrenal Relief. And then we're also on Instagram uh, at Adrenal Fatigue _. So at Adrenal Fatigue _. So this is the Adrenal Fatigue podcast. Sarah and the Recentered Movement, very nice. Honored to have you on our podcast as our guest. Look forward to future episodes with you. Greg, any final thoughts out there?
No, just thanks for coming on, Sarah. That was awesome. And like Casey
You
said,
too.
we'd love to have you on again. I just think you and I have so much overlap. And I will say, too, the next time I'm out in California, I try to come up a couple times a year. We should hang out.
Absolutely. It sounds like
Yeah.
fun. And thank
Yeah.
you very much for having me.
Yeah,
Sure.
likewise.
All right.
Okay, that is it. We are done.
Thank
Woohoo!
you.